Welcome to another episode of Playing the Bounce, where we chat to a man who is very well traveled. From PE, Kimberley, Pretoria, Glasgow, we chat to Glasgow Warriors log Sintu Manjezi about his journey. Benedict finds out what is the art of stealing lineouts and also jumping in the air. Sintu, brother, obviously your journey has been it's been great. It's been great to watch. I think I remember seeing you at the Kings when you were under 19. I was on 21. Back when I had less of a pop and I could actually run around. I mean, but now you've been Cheetahs, Kimberley, Pretoria, now all the way in Glasgow. I mean, you must have played with some phenomenal teammates. And can you tell us who you met on the way that sort of inspired you and helped you in your journey?
So I've met, obviously, I'm good friends with Carl. I'm living with him at the moment. I met him at Crickwas. We formed quite a good friendship together. Moving on to Cheetahs, I became good friends with Abongile, quite a fun guy. Really enjoyed being around with him. At the Bulls, I also met some people who I became good friends with. So, yeah, on my journey of coming from the Kings to here, I've met a lot of good people that I've made good friendships with.
That's fantastic. I mean, you played in Kimberley, Bloemfontein, Pretoria, Glasgow. I think most of these teams play a lot of running rugby, exciting rugby. Does that sort of suit your playing style? How have you adapted, especially when you went to the Bulls? How's the playing style affected or allowed you to develop as a player?
Yeah, that's true. We've probably played a lot of the teams that I've been have probably played quite a lot of attacking rugby. I was with Franco at Cheetahs and I'm with him here. So he's also put a bit of an emphasis on the defense side because he understands that defense does win you the playoff games and does win you the championships, but the attack is also important. So I've had to balance out my game in terms of being able to attack really well, but also being able to be solid in defense because you've got to, in the latter stages of tournaments, you've got to be able to defend well.
And obviously, attack is in your blood. I mean, you're St Andrews College boy, after all. I mean, but being in Scotland, isn't that a college boy's dream?
If you had told me when I was leaving St Andrews that I'd end up playing rugby in Scotland, I would have probably told you you're lying. But yeah, I mean, at school we had quite a lot of the traditions of wearing a kilt, singing "O Flower Scotland," and all that kind of stuff. So it's a nice story that's come together quite nicely for me. And obviously at St Andrews we played running rugby, and that's what we're looking to do here at Glasgow. So it's built up into quite a nice story for me.
That's fantastic. Talk about leaving South Africa. You grew up in South Africa. You played most of your rugby all in South Africa, and you decided to go to Scotland. I mean, what have been the most exciting challenges that you've encountered in Scotland, and what are the most difficult aspects of having moved to a different country?
I think obviously coming across here and having Carl letting me move in with him has made everything a lot easier in terms of finding my feet. He's helped me out in terms of getting a car, getting this, getting that, all the small things that I've needed to get. So that having a friend that has really made it easier. One of the toughest things is probably how cold it is. Because back home, when you have one cold day, you just stay inside and it's flipping. Tomorrow could be a hot day. Here in Scotland, it's going to be cold now till probably in February, and it's going to get much colder. So I need to get used to being out, being active in the cold, not just staying inside. Otherwise, I'm going to get cabin fever till February. Otherwise, besides for that, making the transfer has been really easy. I think obviously I've moved quite a bit in my career, so I understand coming into a new environment, what's expected of you and what you need to do. So I think having moved so often, that's kind of made it a bit easier for me.
And obviously, in Sintu, I mean, like I said, you spent many times at quite a few different sides. I mean, I know obviously, I remember when we were at the Kings together, we were part of the change that was happening there, and then now there's a new culture shift now happening at Glasgow with Franco Smith there. So, what's sort of the best culture you've been in, you'd say, in your career during all the teams you've played in?
That's a tough one. I've never really thought about ranking them. but it's more about, if I can put it, it's more about time of like in my age and where I've been. I think at the Kings, I was young. You know what I mean? The lifestyle there was young, Varsity Cup days, enjoying all of that. Going into Greek was an opportunity for me to really start my career. And I think meeting someone like Carl really helped me because of how focused he was and how hard he worked. And then just building it onto Cheetahs, where I adapted my rugby in terms of really getting exposed to Pro 14, or the equivalent of Super Rugby, and how I had to train there. So it's been a whole bunch of different cultures. And at different stages of my life, I've probably needed different things. So I can't really pinpoint one, but yeah, that's it.
I mean, you spoke about moving to Glasgow and enjoying it up there. I mean, you've played for a couple of teams that have had a formidable home record over the years. I mean, the Bulls at Loftus, Glasgow at Scotstown. I mean, Glasgow have an amazing home record. I mean, it's probably one of the most impressive rugby home records in the world. But they're sort of struggling away from home. Can you talk us through like what it's like mentally when you guys have to go on an away game and you're in a game and you somehow lose? Whereas at home, there's almost like a confidence when you play at the Scotstown. I mean, it's almost impossible for teams to win there. I mean, you played the Bulls a couple weeks ago and you absolutely put the sword.
Yeah, I think looking not just maybe at Glasgow, but over my whole career, your home fans really do make a difference for you. They really are that 24th man that really do get you across the line in terms of changing momentum. If the fans are cheering on your guys' 22, that really gives you that extra boost to keep going, keep forward, and keep defending. Or if you're on attack and you hear the fans praising you and stuff like that, that really gives you that extra boost. So I think we have such a good fan base at home and we use that when we're away, we don't really have that. So we need to try find something within ourselves and as a group that's going to continue to motivate us so we can put out performances when we're away. Like you said, we're good at home and we back ourselves at home and we want to create something special here at home. But to get into the latter stages of this tournament and to win it, you need to be able to go away and put teams away. So that's something that Franco's focused on and that we've focused on. And hopefully, as the tournament goes on, we'll be able to find something within ourselves that's going to bring the kind of rugby we play at home, being able to take that away.
And obviously, I've been lucky enough to see your career grow. I mean, obviously, I was with you when you started out. What was fun is you started out, you had a normal schoolboy cut, you're still in school, and now you're all the way to dreads. Is it a Scottish thing or what's going on there, brother?
Nah, man, Kooks, why are you having me like this? Nah, I don't think you'll find many dreads here, dreaded people around here in Scotland. To be honest, it was Tim McGarver's influence when I got to the Bulls with him. I was also close to them. So I was just like, flip, man, I've always wanted dreads. So I just wanted to check it out how it was. I said I was going to have it for like 6 months and I'd get over it. But obviously, I've grown them. Yeah, and I'm enjoying having them. So shout out to Tim for that.
I've always given you a lot of grief for supporting Arsenal. Arsenal are winning games now. I use words like specialist in failure and stuff like that. And let's just be serious here. You lost your first final. Your first serious final with Griquas in that SuperSport Challenge a couple of years ago. And you mentioned something about going into environments where you never want to experience the disappointment of losing. And then you went on to win 3 Currie Cup finals in a row with 2 different teams. Like how does that make you feel? What got you to be able to fight and get yourself into a position to contribute in finals and to be able to win finals, part of a team?
Yeah, I think if I look back at how everything's come across in those finals, I think definitely the mentality definitely builds in the preseason. I think you've got to, as an individual, have a good preseason, but as a squad, really have a good preseason with the belief of we are going and setting ourselves to win the final. And that's what I really learned from, I think in my first season as Greek was, we wanted to get there, but we didn't really plan to get there. Working with Franco at Cheetahs, we planned to be in the final. We planned from the final backwards. And in preseason, that's what was motivating us, that we will be in the final, in the last play. This is what we're going to do. And we kind of work back from that. And then moving into the Bulls, Jake had the same philosophy of that. He was there to win trophies. He expressed that he's a winner and he's been around at a few different clubs and he's won trophies. And he wants to not only make Loftus a fortress, but win trophies and bring back the golden age of the Super Rugby days at Loftus. And that was that mentality in pre-season. And if you can carry that throughout the season, you've built up a strong mentality as a group of, listen, we're here to win this. And that gives you the confidence to go and execute and go and perform in the latter stages.
Obviously, winning the Currie Cup, there's certain beverages that go into the trophy that are from. We won't say what those are, waters, iced tea, you won't say what it is, but someone who wins the Currie Cup, what's it like drinking out of the rugby's oldest trophy? That must be a surreal feeling.
Yeah, it's a really surreal feeling. I think if I look back, the first time I think I didn't make the most of it in terms of I think it was, like you plan to do something and then you shock yourself that it's happened. So it was a kind of like real surreal moment of flip. It didn't really hit because did we really do this? Especially if you watch the final and if you watch the semi-final against the Sharks and the final against the Lions. So it was really like a surreal moment for me. I think once I got to Bulls and I won it again, I really embraced that moment of flip. I'm fortunate this happened again, and I'm really fortunate to be here. And you look at how hard you've worked and all that kind of stuff. So drinking that, whatever you want to say, was inside that cup was really special for me. It puts this perspective how hard you've worked to be able to drink out of that cup, and it just shows that if you work hard and you really believe in what you're doing, that there is an end goal, and obviously that is an end goal.
I mean, the line out is arguably the most important set piece in rugby. Most of the tries come from a line out platform. I mean, having a line out is important. You play lock for majority of your career, sometimes as a loose forward. Walk us through your processes from a line out point of view, in the sense of how difficult is it to get to master all your line out calls, and then how do you prepare in disrupting the opposition's line out, because it goes hand in hand in what we call line out dominance in a game.
Yeah, so I think being able to disrupt or find turnovers on in any facet of the game is important. But specifically looking at the line out, I think normally you look at the team's last 3 games because normally teams keep a trend of 3 games before they change. So last 3 games is normally what they're going to keep. And a lot of the players will stay the same. I mean, they might add in a new player here, but the trend will normally be the last 3 games. So in terms of focusing on their attack, and when we're defending, I'll look at what they've done the last three games, who their main jumpers are, what movements do they have, do they go initially, or do they have double movements, or do they have a lot of sprints and that kind of stuff. So it's kind of it's like gambling, I guess. You've seen a few pictures and then you hedge your bets on where you think you can get there, or where you think you can steal their ball. And then looking at our ball, it's more about your own system. So obviously, depending on how you want to attack and what you want to gain from the attack, is that if you want to maul them to try to keep their forwards in, if you want to take the ball out or more than take the ball out immediately, or if you want to go off the top, it just depends on how you want to attack them and where you're looking to try to breach them. And then I think winning your own ball, there's certain calls that you have that are stock standard in the system. And then I think you just add 2 or 3 calls every week just to keep it fresh and just to keep it fresh, I guess.
Obviously, I mean, Sintu, you've obviously come up against some great line-out jumpers, some great line-out teams. Who would you say is the best jumper you come against, and which team sort of giving you the most trouble in line-out time? You're allowed to say me as the best jumper you've seen. I can but would you say other come against?
Flip. I play. It's a bit pretty good on the floor. I would play against the Sharks. Obviously, that was probably my first time playing him, and I saw that he moves quite well on the floor, and he jumps really. He's quite an explosive guy, so he's pretty good. I think Marvin Ori calls the line out quite well. He's always been able to shift and make calls on the move. That's obviously, if I'm trying to disrupt him, he's been able to do that. yeah, those are the two that that are on the top of my head.
Right. Before we wrap up, a quick. I want to find out now. You've worked with Franco Smith at the Cheetahs. I know you're a big fan of Franco. You've also worked with World Cup winning coach Jake. I mean, what makes them different? What makes them similar? What is it like to work with two well-renowned coaches in South African rugby folklore?
It's I think if I had to compare them, I mean, it's more about intensity. It's more about detail. They've got and they believe that they can win. And then it's just about driving it constantly. Every week, it's about driving that intensity, driving that mentality that we're going to win and we can win trophies. I think they've both won in their careers as coaches, and I think that's something that they drive into the players. Franco's very intense in terms of attack, how he wants his teams to attack like that. And I think having worked with him at Cheetahs and then going to Jake and coming back to him, I think he's added that defensive side to his coaching, that how important defense is. Working with Jake, it was about having one system that he kind of implemented and made small changes in. There was a lot about physicality at the Bulls and dominating the team more physically. But I went there thinking that it was going to be about slow rugby, and I got a bit of a surprise because Jake also likes playing fast rugby on attack, countering and really moving the ball, because that's something that I didn't know about him. But when I worked with him, I realized that he also wants to move the ball, also wants to attack, also wants to really impose himself on attack, not just bashing it up, but really shift the ball. And I think if you've watched the Bulls attack, if you look at how that 5 meter tap that they have and so many variations that they've had around that, he's brought that in. So it's really, they're similar in those aspects, but they're also different in how they operate.
Sintu, brother, thank you for joining us. Benedict, always adding great value and with the technicalities. And Sintu, look forward to seeing you next journey. Hopefully not moving anywhere anytime soon so we can keep track. But no, brother, it's so good to see you.
All right,
thank you for joining us.
Thanks,
Sintu. Thank you.
Thanks, Ben.
Bye.
Sintu, just like in the game of rugby, you too can get better at playing the bounce in life. How? We call it change science, and you can find out all about it here on the Change Exchange.